only author us to put on bifocals.
Can your life really be transformed by going to an estate sale? If you're Gene and Spence Collins, it can. They're a baby boomer couple looking for a little magic in their life after they leave the corporate grind. Like two of us we know. But they didn't count on finding real magic at the estate sale of an elderly widow. And it turns their lives upside down. Stitches is the first book of a trilogy of fantasy fiction, magical realism, but it also could be categorized as baby boomer fiction. Baby boomers writing about baby boomer experiences. And over the course of 3 books, this baby boomer couple's life is transformed. And they tell you when you first become a writer is to try and put some kind of Hollywood pitch together for your book and piece it all to get, to get your message across. And I really couldn't come up with anything except this. If you combine an older, more modern version of Nick and Nora Charles from Dashiell Hammett's The Thin Man series with the Antiques Roadshow and track a valuable artifact like they do on History Detectives, you get Stitches. Only with a twist of immortal magic. And that's really what it is. So I'm going to open it when Gene and Spence Collins find an artifact in an old chest that they bring home from this estate sale. They bring a bird bath and an old chest. And so I've got two scenes I'll read for you. And Jean's in this scene is cleaning up the chest as she gets it home, and she realizes it has a false bottom. Being incredibly OCD that she is, Jean's imagination goes from 0 to 100 when she finds this false bottom in the chest. Their Maine Coon cat, Mycroft, is only too curious too, but Jean has no idea that what she finds in the bottom of this chest will turn her and Spence's life on its ear. Once the lid was secured and silenced, she opened and closed it several times. Something seemed odd. The floor of the chest seemed to be set higher than it should have been. She stuck her hand inside and pressed on the bottom piece of wood. It definitely had some give, which also seemed odd for a solid wood chest. She studied the sides of the wood base. It was apparent the bottom piece was just floating inside, unattached to the sides. Very odd. In her white socks, she trotted back to the garage to get a putty knife. As she searched through the toolbox, she imagined all kinds of treasures underneath the wood. She tried not to get excited, but the suspense was overwhelming. Back in the living room, she leaned into the chest and pried the edges of the wood bottom. It released with a pop after she worked on 3 of the 4 sides. She lifted it out and saw a square bundle of faded brown paper. It was knotted with frayed hemp twine. Oh my God, there is something in here. She stared at it. The weight of it surprised her as she gingerly lifted the bundle and set it on the living room rug. She got up and did a tiptoe trot to the mudroom to get her good fabric scissors from her sewing basket. Poising her scissors carefully around the twine, she made 2 cuts to release it. She turned the bundle over, She turned the bundle over to find the folded seam. It would be better to keep the paper intact if at all possible, just in case. She gently pulled it open. As the paper fell away, her breath caught in her throat. A flower garden of colors swirled in front of her. It was a folded piece of spectacular fabric. Cautiously, as if it might explode, she opened up the 3 folds and stared in awe. Mycroft came up behind her and rubbed her back. As he moved around her to investigate, his back arched and his tail puffed out like a stiff bottle brush. He sniffed the fabric, slowly stalked around it in a crab walk and sat down. He stared at it, staying close by her side. Now you stay away from this, big boy. She smoothed down his fur, and continued to stare at the fabric. Mycroft leaned forward and nosed the edges, his fur still puffed. His bright green eyes were on full alert. The rumble of the garage door broke her trance. Spence was home. She looked at her watch, shocked it was already 5:30. Quickly folding the fabric in the paper, she set it in the bottom of the chest. Mycroft raced up the steps to greet Spence. "Hi, honey. Yes, yes, Mycroft, I love you too." Jean looked up into the kitchen from the living room floor, all the tools littered around her in the carpet. She grinned like a school kid in shop class. "Looks like you've been busy." "Oh, I've been busy all right. Come here. You won't believe what I found." Spence stepped down in the living room and looked at the chest. "This is lovely, honey. I hope you're not thinking of keeping it in the house," Spence said and laughed. "I know, right? I don't think it was a mistake to buy it, though. You've got to see what I found inside." Spence sat on the hassock between the two love seats, and she pulled out the bundle out of the bottom of the chest. She unfolded it on the carpet and slowly turned it towards Spence's face. "Oh my God, can you believe this? I said the same thing too." The fabric was approximately 18 inches square. The red plumed heads of 3 large pheasant-like birds were turned towards their viewer, their eyes alert, questioning. The reflective quality of the material gave the illusion the birds' eyes were real. The feathers graduated in a luminescent spray of sparkling turquoise, bright gold, rich pumpkin, and chestnut brown. Deep green vines with delicate white flowers swirled around the rich vanilla background. Jean crawled around on the floor and looked at it from different angles. Spence stared at it in awe too, speechless. "Spence, I know fabric. This isn't like anything I've ever seen before. I don't see any fuzz on it from fraying thread, and there's no real weave. It just is. Feel it. It's smooth and heavy, like fabric chainmail. Isn't it weird?" She fingered only the borders to avoid touching the images. "Do you think it's old? Where did it come from?" Spence leaned over and touched the corners. "I don't know. I'm going to try and find out. I'm calling the estate sale lady at Hawkins and Company first thing on Monday. I want to talk to that old woman who owned that house, if she's still alive." She refolded the fabric in the original paper and set it in the chest. "Oh wait, look outside in the yard." With a huge grin, she pointed out the window at the bird bath. "Wow, I love it. It looks like the birds in that fabric could take a bath in it. It's perfect. Hey, I've got good news too." Spence bounded up to the kitchen and retrieved a bag. "Bill and I found a great collection we're going to buy. I pulled a few choice ones home to bring home. I got some great vintage West Montgomery, John Coltrane, and drum roll please, the original soundtrack from Goldfinger." He pulled the album out of the stack, slid the vinyl disc from its sleeve, and blew on it several times. He flipped it over by its ends, and by the end of his fingertips, placed it on the table, and gently lowered down the needle. Through the crackle and pop, Shirley Bassey's penetrating, powerful voice belted out the first side of the first song. So, they found this fabric, and now they're trying to imagine what it is. Well, if you're Jean and Spence, or at least Jean, you're going off the charts. So what do? They get rip-roaring drunk that night and imagine all kinds of things are going on with this fabric. And they imagine they're going to go on the Antiques Roadshow, and the appraiser's going to tell them that they've got this national treasure, right? Have we all been there? And they pantomime their reactions. Should I weep? Should I hoop and holler around the studio? Well, reality takes over the next morning, and the reality is a hangover. So they're completely unprepared, though, for what they're really about to experience. The fabric is even more incredible than they ever could have imagined. So Jean's already downstairs, powering down some coffee. Spence and Mycroft come down, and in this next scene, "Hey, hi, I'm a bit fuzzy this morning, but it was worth it. I had a lot of fun last night. How about you?" Spence glanced at the albums strewn on the floor around the stereo. "I can't believe I didn't put those away before we went to bed. We were having too much fun." She took another swig of her coffee. Her eyes were fixed on the fabric. "Look at the way the light plays on it, Spence. I think you're about to get obsessed with that thing." She could tell Spence was watching her watch the fabric. "I know we were kidding around last night, Spence, but there was really something about it I can't explain. It's so ethereal. I need to find out more about it." Throughout the morning, they completed their chores. She cleaned up the house, Spence mowed the backyard, and replaced the water in the bird bath. The fabric remained on the hassock. She couldn't resist the opportunity to stop and admire it as she went by. Mycroft guarded it as if he had ownership. She broke away to do the laundry in the garage and met up with Spence as he put away the lawnmower. "Let's make some lunch, or we can go down to Kitchen and Wine for some soup," Spence suggested. As they walked inside, Jean saw Mycroft had changed position and was lying on the fabric. No, he was half crouched on it. "Honey, get him off there. He's going to get his fur all over it," Spence scolded. At that moment, they heard a loud bang on the window. Jean jumped for the noise. "What was that?" she asked. "No, wait. Look at Mycroft. He's got a weird look on his face." She touched Spence's arm to prevent him from stepping down into the living room. Curious, they both stood at the top step and watched Mycroft. "He looks like he's trying to lay an egg or something. Look at him scoot his back feet, and his eyes are half closed," she whispered. Mycroft suddenly opened his eyes, jumped off the fabric, and ran to the 3 living room windows. It was like he couldn't figure out which way he wanted to go. He ran past them and bounded up the stairs. Alarmed, they both followed him to make sure he was all right. Mycroft shot back down the stairs. He slid to the top of the sliding door and off to the side patio of the dining room. He ran over to the open door, and Mycroft launched himself over the threshold. "What the heck was that about? Looks fine now." She slid the door shut and ran back to the living room. Look at this." Spence was staring at the fabric. "Spence, where are the birds? Where are the birds?" The fabric was empty. Only the flowering vines remained. It made no sense at all. Their gaze rose in unison to the bird bath in the backyard. Around the rim of stone calla lilies perched 3 enormous pheasants, stretching their wings and dipping their beaks into the sparkling fresh water to take a drink. They were an exact match to the birds in the fabric. The long spikes of their tail feathers touched the ground. One launched its heavy wings into the air, followed by the second, and then the third. Jean and Spence ran to the window. The birds' iridescent bodies rose higher and higher, past the tops of the towering fir trees and into the sun. Jean and Spence shielded their eyes from the glare and followed the birds' path until they disappeared. "Spence," she said, gawking out the window. "Yeah, I really did see it." Jean slowly stepped to the sliding glass door in the dining room to check on Mycroft. Her legs were heavy. Walking felt like dragging concrete. It was the quest to do something normal, to make sure the world still spun on its axis.
Hey, how are you?
Mycroft was on the patio, in the same crouched position as when he was on the fabric. He acted as if he had something underneath him. He sprung up when she opened the sliding glass door. A dead robin lay on the patio, and blood pooled around its head. The fabric is the key to immortality. That was my spoiler, but this is the discovery of the fabric, and over the course of 3 books, this couple does a lot with it. They get into a lot of trouble with it as well, and they hook up with the FBI. They have a bad guy in every book who's after them, and every book is an elevation in their consciousness and their enlightenment of realizing the dreams that they've always wanted to have, and it took getting to retirement to actually do it.
Come with the wine.
And the second book is due in next month.
Different kinds.